At the same time, I think one of the important stories coming out of the handling of First Republic's failure is, once again, JPMorgan Chase getting much, much larger and becoming an absolute giant. It has been on this path for quite some time. This makes Jamie Dimon incredibly significantly important. Financial Times had a good report on this. They put this up on the screen. They note that all deposits were taken over by JPMorgan. That means the U.S. government did not have to declare the bank a systemic risk to protect those larger deposits over $250K. JPMorgan, though, they secured a loss-sharing agreement. So they capture, whatever upside there is, but they have some loss-sharing agreement to avoid the downside. They describe that as a crucial sweetener for the buyer. And although top Biden administration officials played a less prominent role in negotiations than in the failure of Silicon Valley Bank, the deal came together after heated discussions between Washington and Wall Street. And they note that Dimon had a direct line to Biden through his contacts in Washington. And I would wager a guess that Jamie Dimon always has a direct line to Joe Biden because he is in some ways as powerful or more so than the President of the United States at this point. They also they quote Ian Katz at Capital Alpha Partners, who warns that as the dust settles, there may be increasing political opposition to this deal. Why? Because in ordinary times, regulators never would have approved JPMorgan Chase buying a bank of the size of First Republic because they are already over the limit of having more than 10% of all of American deposits residing with their bank. They were already over that limit. So if they had just come and said, we're going to buy First Republic, regulators would have said, no way, you're already over the limit, we're not doing it. And so they say they never would have received regulatory approval to purchase a healthy bank of that size. They will now get bigger due to their role as savior of last resort. I mean, we have effectively made JPMorgan Chase like a quasi-governmental institution.
Yes.
And handing them perks that are involved with them, looking for them to clean up messes that are made in the banking system in other places. And that is an extraordinary role that they have been put in. Jamie Dimon struck a defiant tone in reaction to all of this, they write. He said, we have capabilities to help our clients who happen to be cities, schools, states, hospitals, governments. We bank countries and we bank the IMF, we bank the World Bank. You need large, successful banks. And anyone who thinks that it would be good for the U.S. To not have that should call me directly. I guess we need to get his phone number, though.
Yeah, please reach out, Jamie. And look, we have a visualization. Go ahead and put this up there on the screen that people can look at. Just look at this. I mean, this is what we're talking about here.
This is, this is before this acquisition, which is going to add another additional $1 trillion roughly to this number that you see here.
Exactly. So now JPMorgan is not only the biggest bank in America, it is bigger by orders of magnitude than the previous largest bank, which is Bank of America, which is already huge at $2.4 trillion, which is also bigger than Citigroup at 1.7. Like I was saying about earlier, put those four together. We're talking about the vast majority of the U.S. economy in the hands of these four banks. It's been a total failure of too big to fail. The entire 2008 thesis that the vast majority of Americans came away with is we're never going to let this happen again because we will never be forced to have bailouts. And instead, we have actually made it more likely that if we ever do face a risk, that we will have to go in and bail these banks out, which is what a travel back in time 15 years ago and try and tell them that that's how everything was going to work out. They would have told you that you were nuts, that we're never going to let that happen, but we did let it happen. And we actually made it worse, in many, many respects, which I think is really sad, to consider about how much populist energy came out from 2008, Occupy Wall Street, and so much of that. And, really what it ended up with is a more precarious financial system than ever.
Just final point to underscore this, put this last piece up on the screen. This was from Forbes. They write, with First Republic takeover, JPMorgan is America's most globally systemically important bank. Their acquisition makes it that. It has an asset size now of over $4.2 trillion. That dwarfs now its next competitor, Bank of America. It will now rank number 5 after 4 Chinese globally systemically important banks. And it's now more than twice the size it was in 2006. So, this author opines clearly the too big to fail problem in the U.S. not only alive and well, now an even bigger problem for the financial industry and the American government. Some analysts have stated the First Republic Bank failure is idiosyncratic, 3 banks have failed in the U.S. in less than 2 months. They are amongst the largest bank failures in U.S. history. This is serious. And the last thing that I'll say for everybody to reflect on is the fact that, this transaction, which once again makes JPMorgan Chase basically a quasi-governmental institution, because Lord knows we are not letting that ship go under. No way.
Never.
And the U.S. government is backstopping any potential risk and losses here of JPMorgan Chase. This is all done over a weekend. It's done very quickly. There is no public input or democratic ability to dissent. And that's the world that we are living in.
Yeah, Jamie Dimon is now basically the new Andrew Mellon. If you guys, we don't have enough time today for me to go into it, but you should go and look him up. He was both one of the richest men in the country and the banker, Secretary of the Treasury of the United States. He eventually went to prison, which is kind of inspiring. But yeah, eventually,
accountability.
Well, after the Great Depression, we kind of woke up to what was going on there. But in the 20s, he was basically a god king here in the U.S., almost exactly 100 years ago, coincidentally. So who knows? Maybe history will repeat itself.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.